In this video, we'll explode a 3D model for a drawing. After completing this step, you'll be able to create an exploded view and transform components. In Fusion 360, we want to get started with the supplied dataset, Blade Guard Assembly. The first thing that we need to identify is the fact that all of these are bodies in a design and not components. So the first thing that we want to do is select each of them, right-click, and create components from bodies. Now that we have components, let's go ahead and just save the design and then move our way into the animation workspace. When we're in the animation workspace, it's important to note that the bottom of the screen is the animation timeline. Anything that we do is going to be captured in the animation timeline as a camera movement. So if we play back through the timeline, you'll notice that it moves the design and rotates it based on what I did. We can select and we can delete that, but if we want to reposition the component from the start, we need to drag the playhead into this curtain area. Then we can zoom out to make sure that we have enough room for all the components to be exploded. Once we're happy, we can then move it back out to a position in the timeline. If we're just making an exploded view for a detailed drawing, we don't need to worry so much about the timeline because the last position in the timeline is going to be where the drawing view comes from. But it is important if you want to play the animation back. The first thing that we want to do is we want to take a look at transform. There are many different ways in which we can transform, and some of them work better than others depending on your design. Manual Explode allows us to select components and use a slider bar to determine how far away those components go. Auto Explode All Level will take all components and subcomponents and explode them away from a center point. Auto Explode One Level will just take the top level components, and all the subcomponents or child components will go with that top level. We can restore home, putting everything back to its original position, and we can use transform components, which is a manual option. For this example, because I feel it's the most helpful, we're going to use transform components, but I strongly urge you to play around with all of the others to see what they do. From here, we're going to select transform component, and we're going to start by selecting the washer and the bolt. Now, oftentimes it can be hard to make these selections and you might want to zoom in, but remember that it's going to cause a camera motion every time we do. If you want to create this without capturing that, we can go up to view and we can disable view recording. This means that we can zoom in and rotate and make our selections, and then when we turn off the view record, it'll go back to its original position. So keep in mind that that can be extremely helpful, especially when we have to zoom in to select multiple components. To get started, we'll grab the washer and the bolt, and then we can pull them out based on that orientation. Also note that we can turn on trail visibility. Every time we want to accept a transform, we don't need to hit OK. We simply need to left-click in the canvas. Also note that it has an option for split transforms, which means that we can split each component individually. But what I'm going to do is move both of those out. I'm going to left click, then I'm going to move the playhead, and then I'm going to move the bolt out farther. Once again, I'm going to left click in the canvas, and now I've created movements for both the washer and the bolt. With transform component still active, I now want to take a look at moving some of these bushings. I'm going to pull this out, and once again, I'm going to turn on the trail visibility. We can also expand the components inside of the browser, and we can pick them from the browser a little bit easier. Before we OK this, I'm going to move it a little bit farther in the timeline, and then I'll left click. Next, we want the next blade guard pin. So far, we've got the post, which is going to stay fixed, the pin, which we haven't moved yet, the bolt and the washer, which we have moved, and then the other pin on the other side. So I'm going to pull this one back. Again, trail line visibility. I can left click to accept it as soon as I'm happy with its position in the timeline. Once I'm happy with everything, I can go ahead and select OK. Any of the moves in the timeline can be resized or moved around so they happen all at the same time if you wish. Let's go ahead and play back through this and see what happens. So right now the bolt and washer move out, then the bolt by itself, then the pin, and then the other pin on the other side. Again, if I want to change anything, I can shorten up how long some of these options take. I can move the pins so that they happen at the same time, and I can make sure that they happen at the same duration. I'll play back. Now the bolt comes out, and then both the pins come out at the same time. Again, the only thing that's extremely important for us whenever we're dealing with creating a detailed drawing view is this last moment in the timeline. Everything else before isn't going to affect your drawing view. And the drawing view is going to be based on standard views or named views that we create. So it's important to make sure that we understand that we're looking at the home view and we're not trying to replicate this at some off-axis orientation. I'm going to turn off the view. I'm going to play back through this one more time. And once I'm happy with that, I'm going to go ahead and save it before moving on.